Folks gathered today to salute the success of numerous East Texas businesses and to honor a businessman killed in a motorcycle crash less than a week ago. KLTV7's Bob Hallmark has more from Longview.
At Pinecrest Country Club, the Longview Small Business Solutions held a luncheon to salute those in the local business community.
Small businesses, sometimes we call them the mom and pop businesses. It's those businesses under 50 employees that really do drive the economy.
3 businesses were given awards for their contribution to new and existing business. One of the businesses being highlighted is Forbes & Butler Visual Communications.
They are receiving our Small Business of the Year award, which is our most prestigious award today.
Please join me in congratulating Forbes & Butler Visual Communications for the 2023 Small Business of the Year.
On April 28th, Jason Butler, one of the co-owners, was killed in a single-passenger motorcycle accident in Harrison County. Remembered as a talented and published artist, his business partner says Jason would have been thrilled with the award.
It's an extreme honor to be recognized when you didn't expect it. You know, Jason, as all of us in the office, we're very proud to have been chosen for the Small Business of the Year. We've stuck through, COVID and all of the challenges with that. We were blessed to have wonderful clients, very bittersweet.
Butler and those like him personify the importance of small business in any community.
Jason really did epitomize the hard work, the spirit behind being an entrepreneur and a business owner. They've definitely put their mark on the city of Longview, for sure.
Bob Hallmark, KLTV 7 News.
And Jason Butler was a big supporter of the arts, and a mural of one of his prints is set to be created in downtown Longview.